Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to look at the 2 or 4 player game, Ambal Tournament Foundation. And this is published by Salt Ring Games. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this is the Kickstarter edition, or the prototype edition of the game. So, when I go down to the table and explain a couple different ideas of the game, this is, again, a prototype, so any of this stuff subject to change during the Kickstarter. So let's go ahead down the table here. I'll give you a general overview of how to play the game, just general overview, and we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so this is what initial setup of Ambal Tournament might look like. To start out the game, what you're going to do is you're going to put your effect tiles in one place. You're going to set out your dice in here. You're going to have your decks. You're going to set your health at 60. So you're going to use a little red little bead to do that and put this at 0 so you can count down on there. You're going to have your starting energy at 8 and your max energy at 12. Now you're always going to take this little black marker and put it one past what your energy is. So this is as high as you can go on energy. You can't go any further. And the clear marker shows your energy. So you start at 8. And your max is 12. Now we aren't going to go over, you can play the game as a duel, which is what I'm going to show. You could also play the game in teams, and when you do teams, you're going to use these targeting, targeting numbers here to determine what your spells will target. And there's certain cards in here that you wouldn't use in a 2-player duel. Before the game begins, though, you're going to decide how you're going to make your deck. And there's 2 basic modes that you're going to do, regular or advanced. If you play the regular game, your deck's going to be limited to 20 cards. Either in regular or advanced, it doesn't actually matter. You're going to only have 1 epic allowed in the deck. And regular, you'll have 20 cards. But in advanced, you're going to have 12 cards. And then you're going to have a 15-card library off to the side. Now, in the advanced mode, there's an additional step I'll go over real quick, but we're going to focus on the regular mode. And like I said, we're not talking about the duel mode. The duel mode's pretty much going to be the same. Each player takes turns, but you're going to be on teams and you're trying to take out the other players. There's cards in here in the doubles game that let you resurrect a player once they lose all their health. So let's go over real quick how you're going to win the game. So you will win the game by either getting your opponent down to 0 health, or if you get this, your opponent's max energy down to 5 or less. So if they're at 5 or less, you win the game. Now let's go ahead and go over what happens on a turn. And keep in mind that we are looking at a duel, but I will explain like in the regular mode, and I'll explain a couple things when we hit for the advanced mode. But you're going to basically start by drawing up to 7 cards at the beginning of every round. All right, so you're going to take these 7 cards, and now that you have those, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to resolve any starter round effects. Now some of these cards have different types of boon is good for you, and curse is bad for you. But you can have starter round effects. Some effects linger, so you can see this little timed thing right here. That tells you how long the effect lasts to. And at the end of each turn, which we'll show you in a second, you will take your little die and drop it down. Now, one thing I do want to mention real quick is this is actually a prototype. So keep that in mind when we're going through this. This is going to be subject to change. They have a Kickstarter coming up, so this is a Kickstarter preview prototype of the game. So once you have drawn your 7 cards, opponents are going to take turns simultaneously and place down a single card. So you're going to look through and you're going to pay attention to what your energy level is and how much the cost is. Now you're going to go through and you're going to try to figure out what your opponent is doing. So let's go ahead and look at one of these. So if I wanted to put this one down, because we're starting the round, this is a Boon Spell. So target ally, which can be myself, First damaging action each round deals 2 extra damage. One thing also to mention in this game is if you have a curse, so you can get like poison right here, or you can get burn, they don't compound. You just take the highest one and use it. Also, time spells like this, if you place another one down that will that says like you have 2 poisons, so they'll get poison for 2 turns, and you play another card that says 3, they don't add up. Just the one that lasts the longest will be taken into account. So that's a couple things to remember when you're doing stuff. So let's say I'm going to play this card. I would place it face down. The opponent would also place a card face down. Now you have to be able to play the energy cost. So the opponent you'd simultaneously flip the cards, and each player would pay the energy required for that. Now we're going to go over what happens on each of these, but just know that you're going to, in a round, play as many turns as you want. So you can spend up all your energy. You can keep playing turns. You can't. When you pass, you're out of the round. Your opponent can keep playing cards if they wish. But that is basically how a round works. You're going to select a card from here. You're going to place it face down. You're going to simultaneously flip it. You're going to pay for it and resolve it. Now, the game comes with these nice little player aids. You're going to resolve. Each turn, you're going to then resolve the cards. So you're going to take a look, and there's different things. Now, a thing to remember in this game, you are actually a warrior, and these are your skills. So you can only have 1 copy of each of these skills in the game. You can only have 1 epic card in there, and you can only have 2 different schools. So there's a lot in planning on how to make the decks, and I'm not going to get into a lot of it, but there's a lot of different modes that you can use for planning the decks. And of course, when I explained it, you can tell the difference between the regular and the advanced mode of having the less cards and a library that you can react to what your opponent's playing and put them in. And we'll get into that in a second, because there is a portion of the turn that will have to do with the advanced mode. So there's a couple different symbols to work, where both of these are actually defensive symbols on here. So this one is going to be called High Tide, and this one's called Spear Arms. So we'll look at Spear Arms first. This one is going to be a boon, and this is one I read where you get things on there. So you're going to take this card, and you're going to place, because it didn't get blocked or anything, you're going to place a die on it for the amount of turns it's going to last for. This guy right here, you're going to, so this one says add 1 non-elite skill from your discard pile to the top of your deck. So this would be a really bad one to play. I just did it randomly from the top on there to show you. But let's say I did have something in the discard, I would actually follow through and do that. Once those are resolved, this would go to the discard pile because it's not duration. This would go off to the side because it's duration until it completed. You have 2 different piles that you're going to have in this game. You're going to have a discard pile and you're going to have an out of play pile. So you're going to have some cards that get like removed from the game through different mechanics. So like I said, you're going to continue doing this. Some of the cards will do damage to the player, some of them won't. Some of them will block it. Like you can see, this one has the little sword icon on it, so that means it's going to deal some damage. So this one, if I played this one after, like I'm going to try to take them out. I could worry about them being, okay, well, they know that for the next 3 times, I'm going to try to do more damage because I want to do 2 extra damage. So they might try to block it, but we'll see. Because if I can get through with this, I can deal 3 damage to target opponent. If they're bleeding, I can increase the duration by 1, but they're not. So I'm just going to try to use it for the damage portion. And their opponent's going to, again, they would actually do something intelligent there, but we're going to do something random. They would flip it, and both resolve. Now, if they had some of them would actually block. We're going to go over, it's a good time to go over how the cards resolve. Right, an interrupt effect would occur first, so that takes place. Then you're going to do block effects. So if my opponent played this card instead, parry, target opponent is using a attack action against you, block it. If you blocked an action this way, I gain 1 energy and a card. So I would know that my opponent is probably going to try to attack me, because in this case they would actually be doing 5 damage to me. But the opponent was like, you know what, whatever. I'm going to just deal 2 damage to your target, because I figured they're not going to attack right after that, because I know they were going to. There's a little bit of a mind game in the game. I'm going to deal, this one deals 2 damage to the opponent, and they are poisoned for 1 round for each curse on them. So they have no curses on it. So again, this would be a really horrible card to play, but it was random. So this would affect, you would take your damage. So let's say I had like 4 curses or whatever. So I would get some damage. This guy would go down to 55. And like I said, I forgot here, but you'd also have had pay the max energy. So now I'm going to be down to 2. And then you're going to have to really start paying attention to what you have left here. Now I could just say, okay, I'm done. I'm done. And if you do that, the opponent, like I said, can keep playing cards until they run out of energy or don't feel like playing it anymore. And then you would go to the end of the round. So if you go to the end of the round, you're going to take into effect end of round effects like this guy right here. So at the end of the round, or at the end of the round, I will drop this down to a 2. I will then calculate any heal. So if I have any cards that help me heal up, I would do that. I would then calculate damage. So if any of them do damage at the end of the round, I would do that. All right. So if at any point I have this down here and I'm blocked from 5 or less, the game ends. If my health is at 0 at any point, the game ends. But if not, each player is going to get 8 energy at the end of the turn, so I'll go up to 10 in this case. If the opponent spent all their energy, they would only go up to the 8. Oh, I bumped that. They would only go up to the 8. If the max marker, let's say it's way down here, you only can go up to there, so you can't go past the max marker. In a advanced mode, you can spend 1 max energy, so I can knock this down once. You can go through your reserve deck and pick 3 cards and put them into your deck and shuffle. So that is the big difference between the 2, and that's the reason why you have that. Another things that can happen too is at the start of the next round when you draw up. So I didn't use all my cards, so I have full 3 left or 4 left. I would draw 3 more cards. If ever I was not able to draw up all my cards, I would then have to shuffle the discard pile into pile and make a new library. And this is what's going to be different between the 2. In regular mode, when I had to reshuffle there, which is called a refresh, I would actually lose 2 max energy. In the advanced mode, where you only have the 12 card library, you would lose 1 max energy. Also, the other reason for that too is you're going to be spending max energy to pull in from your side library into your main deck. So that is in essence how you play the games, or how you play this game. I'm not really going over a lot of the different rules here because I just wanted to give you an idea of the game. We're going to do future videos here where we'll do rules and we're going to do deck construction and all that fun stuff. But for right now, I just wanted to give you a general idea of how the game plays. So keep that in mind. There's a lot more to this game, but that is generally just the flow of the game. Like I said, you're just going to, your goal in the game is to try to get the opponent's health down to 0 or their max energy to 5 or less. Once that happens, you win the game. Let's go ahead back up to the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts on Ambal Tournament. So Ambal Tournament, I really love this game 2-player. There's a lot in the deck construction of this game that is a lot of fun. We're going to do future videos on deck construction, the different types. We'll do one on strategies for the basic and advanced mode of the game. The draft, you could draft cards in here too. But there is a lot in the game on the construction of the deck, and I recommend that you play the game best 2 out of 3. So when you have the 2 decks created and you're playing the game, you're going to go through your first game and you're going to learn what the opponent's deck is. In the second game, you're going to have a really good idea of what's in your opponent's deck, and they're going to have a good idea of what's in your deck, and more of the strategy and the tension will come out in that second game and the third game. So that's why I recommend best 2 out of 3 when playing this game, because it's great. And actually, I also recommend using the starter decks that they suggest in this deck box. Now, if you want to play this game 4-player, you'll need 2 copies of this. But like I said, it's a great 2-player game. And it's great in the time length it takes. So you could bust through all those 2 or 3 games pretty quick and then go into another set. So I like this game a lot. I think this is going to be great. I can't wait to see what they come out with in the Kickstarter. There's plenty of content in this base game. And just the prototype art in this base game is great. I love it. The prototype components are great. So I can't imagine like how much that's going to be improved in the Kickstarter. It's just overall, I'm super excited about the Kickstarter, like I said, and I'm super excited about to see what happens with this game during the Kickstarter. So that is my thoughts on Ambal Tournament Foundation. Thank you for watching.